Hello. What's crack-a-lackin'? I'm Scotty. You are not. I was wondering why that didn't explode on me. It's a Minute Maid Justing. So it's not really soda pop. Not really soda, it's just. It's, you know. Well, now it's time to start Freddy Revisited series. Which I was gonna wait till later this year, but. Some things might be happening in this apartment. Like they might put a new floor in or repaint the walls. So I want to get some of the big stuff done as soon as possible before that happens. So we're doing this now. So let's take a second to look at the background. I think I did a good job. You got the Freddy shirt, and I know that that's the remake picture, but I have another one. That's the better of the two, unfortunately. And I got that box set, which I will talk about here in a minute. The DVD box set, the Blu-ray collection. I don't call it a box set if the box set's not a box and it's not had all the movies. And then that book, which will change for each one, except for the last two because they're not in that collection. So I'll figure out something else to put there. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984, directed by Wes Craven, who is famous for doing classic horror movies like Hills Have Eyes or Last House on the Left. It will go on to make many more classics like Shocker. Yep, Shocker. Didn't get better than that. Okay, he did Scream. But still Shocker, which I haven't seen. And The People Under the Stairs, which I also want to do at some point. But yes, I have been doing some John Carpenter, Wes Craven stuff for the channel, but, you know, to kind of accompany this Wes Craven wise. But, yeah, so the idea for this movie came from. There was a story where somebody was having nightmares, and then one day they found him dead. He died in his sleep. Now, some people have taken to this meaning, that there is actually something like Freddy Krueger out there, but it's not that. It's not that complicated, really. You can die of fright. You can get scared to death. There is such a thing. If you get so scared and your heart can't take it, then you're dead, honey. That Terminator reference. Yeah. That's really all it was, man. He was so frightened by his dreams. Because you have a nightmare and you wake up, your heart's pounding, right? Imagine you're so scared in that dream that it pounds so much that, right? You know, what they won't tell you about that kid who ever died is that he had a heart condition, probably. I'm not confirmed, but I'm just saying. And, like, another part of the idea came from, you know, this weird guy that used to stare at Wes Craven through his window as a child. And then the name Freddy Krueger, or Fred Krueger, came from a childhood bully of Wes Craven. So now that guy is somewhere just like, man, this guy made buco bucks off my name and I got shit. But, yes. And this legacy of Freddy Krueger is long and fortuitous. Because while there's only 9 movies to speak of, and yes, I'm counting Freddy vs. Jason because it's more of a Freddy movie than a Jason movie because of copyright shit. So, yeah, I'm counting that. I'm putting Freddy vs. Jason in this, so I'll be doing those 9 movies. But like, there's not a lot of. There's 9 Freddy movies, and then you have there's like 13 Michael Myers movies or Halloween movies. Count 3, and then Jason movies. There's 12. So like, yeah, there's compared to even Chucky, it's close to it with 7 movies and a TV show that lasts 3 seasons. So hopefully another one on the way, another movie on the way. Hopefully. Don Mancini wouldn't lie to us now, would he? Well, he does say that Child's Play 3 is the worst one, and that is a lie. But, yeah, so after that little history, my history with Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. I did not watch the first Nightmare on Elm Street first. A lot of franchises, I didn't always start out with that. Sometimes it's whatever's on TV, whatever you had. Now, I had the first one available to me. I said this back about 2005-ish, 2006-ish. My great-grandma passed away, and I was gifted her horror movies because I was somewhat of a horror fan. And that's what really got me into horror. I was, my grandma already had most of those. She's like, "Here, you want these? Go ahead." And inside was Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy vs. Jason. And being that this was around that time, 2005-ish, it was close to when Freddy vs. Jason came out, and I saw the trailers on TV. And even though I knew bumfuck about either of them, I said, I want to watch this first. And, I knew nothing about either of them going in, and I knew a little bit more of Freddy and not much about Jason afterwards, because they don't, But, yeah, so after that, of course, I wanted to watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And I did. Yes, and so I started to understand, but I didn't, I didn't watch the first one first, because I wanted Freddy vs. Jason was fresh out there, so that's what I wanted to see first, because it's too horror. I knew who Freddy was, I knew who Jason was, I just never saw their movies. Saw bits and pieces of Jason, I think, at some point, but not anything substantial. And then I went to Shopko, and I bought that there collection. It's not that very same one, because mine, I lost that outside box, and then I kept losing Freddy's dad for some reason, and then once I got the Blu-ray, I got the other DVD collection with the red cover, which I still have those discs, but the cover is probably long gone by now, which is why it's not there, or else I probably would have it somewhere. And then I bought that Blu-ray collection from Walmart. So I didn't really need those, but now I got them, and they're also added to my Snapcase collections. I wanted them back specifically for this not only specifically for this series, but because that collection means a lot to me. It was the first big box collection I ever bought. My paycheck money with Shopko, I bought it. It was in one of those glass case things they had to come and snap off, And, at Shopko, stuff like that you had to buy in the electronics area, kind of like Walmart. But you don't really have to, unless it's in the case. You don't have to at Walmart, but it's in a glass thing. They'll take it up. You could do it in the front, but you have to go through the actual checkout and not, So yeah, and I watched all of them through, and I think I have opinions on this franchise I have ever heard. One controversial statement I have is that I don't think Nancy Thompson is as strong of a final girl as people give her credit for. She's better than Laurie Strode in her first movie, but the way that the ending is written kind of undermines the way the character goes to fight Krueger. It's just like, oh, Wes Craven had this ending, and I don't mean the forced ending that Bob Shea put in here. I mean the actual ending that Craven had in mind, how she defeats. Because how she defeats Freddy was the way that Wes Craven intended. It's just the tacked on cliffhanger that Bob Shea put in there. So, you look at this ending, It's not the entire ending that Bob Shea put in there. It's just that cliffhanger. But I have a problem with the entire ending, which we'll get to. But the story of Nightmare on Elm Street actually begins with Tina. Not that Tina. Tina. We'll be talking about that in October, I think. Halloween 5. Oh, great. That should be wonderful, shouldn't it? Next year I ain't gonna be as happy either because I have to do Halloween 6 twice. Yeah, next year, 2026, Halloween 6, and I gotta cover the theatrical cut and revisit the producer's cut. Maybe I'll watch both back to back and do it in one review, so I don't have to worry about it. Anyway, that's next year. We're doing this now. So we started in a dream sequence with Tina, played by Amanda Wyss, running through some dark area, and she sees a sheep. It's a sheep, right? It's not a goat, it's a sheep. And then she runs into Freddy. You know, he's just, you know. And then she wakes up after a little bit of cat and mouse, I guess. And she has slashes on her shirt, which indicates that, you know, this possibly be real. But I like the mom's response. Cut your nails and go back to sleep. It's like, and I feel like Kristen's mom in the third one is sort of an homage to this because it's very similar, where she like wakes up. She's like right there when after she wakes up and she's like, okay, it was just a dream. And then the guy's like, come on, come back to bed. That sort of thing. And then we're gonna introduce to Tina's friends, Nancy, played by Heather Langenkamp. Nancy's boyfriend Glenn, played by teen heartthrob Joe and Johnny Depp, a guy who hated his teen heartthrob status, didn't care for it at all. He wasn't quite the heartthrob yet because he wouldn't do 21 Jump Street till 1987, which is the year of my birth. So he wasn't quite the heartthrob yet. And then you have Tina's boyfriend Rob, played by Jesus Garcia, or he went by a different name for this. Is it on the back? I'm in my underwear again. Of course, he's not credited, but we have Ronnie Blakely and John Saxon, who were the two big ones. Of course, he's not in any of the pictures either. Great. It's comfortable. And these are like shorts, okay? So you can't complain that I'm in my underwear. If I was wearing tidy whities, then that's one thing. These are boxer shorts. They're comfortable. Uncomfortable. But yeah, Jesus Garcia, who went by a different name because they didn't think they'd hire him otherwise. And he is the bad boy. Up yours with a twirling lawnmower. Yeah. Apparently, she and she and Rod had some sort of argument, and so it's kind of, I don't know. But it's implied that Nancy also had the same dream, which doesn't make any sense. Well, it sort of does when you think of, well, maybe he was in Tina's dream and then jumped into Nancy's dream. But then Rod later also confirms that he was having the same dreams on the same night that they did. And that's 3 people. So is he jumping? How did that work? I mean, it's also somewhat hinted that Good was also having the same dreams. unless we can appear in multiple dreams at the same time, which is never done at all in this series except for in Dream Warriors when they all can go into the same dream, which I have an issue with something later that I noticed while watching this. Alright, we'll get to it. But yeah, it's hinted that so they are staying at Tina's house because Tina's parents are away, so Glenn and Nancy aren't there, and Glenn is trying to convince his mother that he is hanging at his cousin's house by using, who lives by the airport, he's using this tape, because it's the 80s, you know, this cassette tape that makes airplane noises, but it also makes other noises, and I've always confused why he's always so surprised by the other noises, but I was listening this time, he got it from someone else, so he didn't know that the other noises were on there. But also, the guy could have told him, hey, it only lasts for this long, so I don't know. But then Rod shows up just 10 miles from the goal line. It's 2 miles from the goal line. And, yeah. And this is another hint. He shows up with this garden club thing, which hints that he's also been having the dreams. But then they go upstairs to get busy. Have sex. Do it! Haven't done that joke in a while. Yeah. While poor Glenn, who can't have sex because Nancy wants to keep an eye on Tina. Meanwhile, they're obnoxiously going at it. And I mean, they're basically just obnoxious. You know how loud it was? I had to turn down the TV because I thought my neighbors would think I was getting it on. Which I should have actually turned it up because then I probably would have had more credit. But, you know, because I'm so lonely. No. And then we also get the Freddy coming through the wall thing. It was used not with CGI 2010 film, but actual latex, which was also tried to be done in the movie Bloody New Year. You know the one. Take one boy, take one girl, add a little love, and you shake it up, shake it up. That's the recipe for romance. That's the recipe for romance. That movie. When they tried that with the thing that comes through the elevator, but the latex ripped, so it looks terrible. Now here it looks pretty good. Yes, so they get done with the bang boom, and Tina falls asleep and has the dream about Freddy. This is where we get the iconic quotes like, "This is God." That sort of thing. I think it's here. And you get the stretchy arms. Yeah, and then she dies. Yeah, we get the classic kill of she's floating into the sky, and then yeah, then Rod decides fuck this and takes off. And I know that that's a bad thing to do, but if he had stayed there, I don't know how much more he could have defended himself. You know, because like Nancy comes in right afterwards and finds Tina. So, but I think what she would have seen was she comes in and Rod's in the corner curled up in a ball after what happened. And so that could add more credence to her being like, I don't think he did it. He was scared. He was scared. There's no way he did. But no, they haven't run away, which is supposed to make him look more guilty, I guess. And even Glenn is saying he did it. And I have an issue with Glenn just like saying, nah, you crazy. Nothing you're saying is true. There's no Fred Krueger. There's no guy with the knives. Nah. Denying everything throughout the movie. Even when he's supposed to be helping her, he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, babe, I'll help you. Yeah, sure. But yeah, the next day, the mom's like, hey, you're not going to school. And she goes, yes, I am. And the mom's like, okay. Not much fighting on that at all. Really, that's really how it goes. So she leaves, and she's found by Rod, who, you know, he wants to prove he's innocent. So, of course, he does this. Grabs her by the face and pulls her into the bushes. right in front of a cop who obviously hears this and summons her father, Lieutenant Donald Thompson, played by John Saxon, who promptly arrests him. But he says he didn't do it. As she goes to school, she falls asleep, she has a dream. Again, Glenn doesn't believe what she's saying, even though he's also having the dreams. And also has heard that the other two are having the dreams, and somehow I don't know. But yeah, she has the nightmare. She's in the boiler room. We get the, you need a pass. Screw your pass. And NC. Yeah, see the body being dragged down the hallway. By the way, the teacher in this scene before this is Lin Shaye of the Insidious franchise and sister to Bob Shaye, the producer guy at New Line Cinema. So, yes. But yeah, she has the dream, and she's in the boiler room with Freddy, and she burns her arm to wake up. Yeah. She has to burn her arm to wake up, but then later, an alarm going off is good enough to wake her up. Right? I don't know. So, after that, she goes to see Rod, and he basically says, yeah, it's him. So he had the knives for fingers and the dirty red and green sweater. And he confirms that he was also having the same dreams that Tina was. And yes, Tina's death early on in the film is an homage to Psycho, although I believe she bites it before or earlier than Janet Leigh does in Psycho. I believe. I think Janet Leigh's in half the movie before that goes down. I think. But yeah, and then the mom is drunk. Basically, she's good at this role, but she's, So that night, Glenn shows up. Well, she's watching The Evil Dead, which is part of a little back and forth between Craven and Sam Raimi. In The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi had a poster for The Hills Have Eyes inside the cabin. So, in this one, she's watching Evil Dead. And then, in Army of the Darkness, is it Army of no. Is it Evil Dead 2? That Freddy's claw is above the window in the shed. And then, in... I don't think there is anymore, but like, yeah. So they kind of have a little back and forth, and this is the middle of that, so, yeah. And then the mom's like, you gotta go to bed, but, Glenn shows up. So, her TV is placed on a chair, a rocking chair, or chair, whatever, for her to watch it. And they have their TV, because Glenn watches his on his bed. And it makes no sense that they would do that. First of all, having it on the bed is a fire hazard because you could short out, get warm underneath the TV, especially in the 80s. TV and cause a fire on the blanket, But more thought about it, do you know why they have to have it that close? Because normally you would have it in front of your bed, right? Side or something, but because this is a set, they couldn't put it where it would usually be because it cuts off at a certain point. And I know that TV sets do that. They have a way, like TV sets, sitcom sets, they have it where it's a certain way. Like Kenan and Kel had one where the TV was in front, but at any given point they could actually back up away from the set to show the TV, and sometimes you just saw the back of the TV. And sometimes the door wall between the kitchen and the living room was gone, depending on which episode it was. And Yeah. Uh, they had to have it that way. So Glenn shows up and she's like, I'm gonna try to track down this guy and I want you to stay awake. Okay? And so she goes into her dream and she starts tracking down Freddy Krueger and it shows that Glenn is still there. But then Freddy Krueger strikes and Glenn has fallen asleep, so he's no help. But he should be. Because he fell asleep. So by all intents and purposes, he should also be in the dream. I know everyone's dream is different, but this is Freddy Krueger we're talking about. And seeing as he was in the same freaking room as her, he should also be there. It's weird that he's there when he's awake, but not when he's asleep. Because I remember the first time I watched this, when she's like, Glenn, and he pops out, yeah? Like, oh shit, he fell asleep. But no, he's not asleep. But then he does fall asleep, and he's not there. Which never made any sense to me. But she's able to wake up, and she gets pissed at Glenn. And then he has to leave, because the mom wakes up. And, yeah. Then we get the I think it's after this, I guess. Do the sleep study with Roger Rabbit, Charles Fleischer, who's the voice of Roger Rabbit. This is okay. This is kind of a weird scene because not only does she fall asleep very fast, now she hasn't had that much sleep, so she could have. But then when she pulls this hat out of freaking nowhere, and the mom's just like, "Where'd you get that?" She pulled it out of her ass. Did you see it come from anywhere? It was just there. We don't see the nightmare she has. She just knows she has we just know she has some confrontation with Freddy. But we don't know what it is. And then she pulls the hat out. And yeah. And the mom's response is just to simply go, throw it in the trash. That's simply what she does because she wants to deny everything. I think I've already gone past it, but we get the scene where she's in the tub and you get the hand coming up. I believe this is the only remnants of the original intent of Freddy, which he was not only a child killer, but a pedophile. Pedophile? And they axed it because it was too much of a hot topic at the time. And then the 2010 movie says, put it back in. You shouldn't have. Because by that point, it was well established that Freddy Krueger was not that. But the 2010 movie wanted to be different, I guess. But this was the only remnants. Also, the Come to Freddy is another thing that I think was left, but you get the hand coming up like Jaws, and then she wakes up. We get stunt boobs pulling her underneath the water. The stunt boobs don't pull her underneath the water. Freddy does. We get stunt boobs because I doubt those are Heather Langenkamp's. There probably are stunt boobs. 99% of the time, if your main star won't get naked, and if they do, it's stunt boobs. We'll talk more about stunt boobs when we get to Freddy vs. Jason. That was so disappointing when I found out. She's so gorgeous. She's gorgeous. Anyway. So she's gone to her dad. Oh no. So she calls Glenn and she says, I'm going to bring him out of the dream because she knows she can't. Well, first of all, she gets the explanation from Mom that Freddy Krueger was a child killer. He killed children, and the parents of the Elm Street decided to get revenge and set his ass on fire. And he died. But now he must be back, although she is too drunk to even believe that. But yeah. So, yeah, and it's never out fully outstated, but there is a theory that Nancy had an older sibling that was a victim of Freddy, and that's one of the reasons why they retaliated. But yeah. If you don't know the whole story, is that Freddy was arrested for his crimes, but that someone signed the wrong area on the document, and so they were forced to let him go. And this did not sit well with the parents of Elm Street, so they set his ass on fire. Yeah. Although this is contradicted by the TV series Freddy's Nightmares, in which it is something different. But anyway. Yeah. So Nancy tells Glenn, hey, I'm going to go into the dream world and I'm going to bring him out. And I want you there to punch him in the face. So, of course, he doesn't take this seriously at all and falls asleep watching the TV. And also, does Nancy take a no-dose? Because, like, after she says that, she takes a couple of pills, and I thought they were sleeping pills. But then, like, the mom comes in and takes the coffee machine away, and she pulls out another one, and I'm just like, wait, if she's going to fall asleep to go after Freddy with those no-dose, although at this point her body's probably so fucked up that she'll fall asleep anyway. But Freddy doesn't come after her, it goes after Glenn, which makes no sense at all. And to explain that, I have to get to the ending. So, we will. But Freddy kills Glenn in spectacular... Oh, fuck. I forgot to talk about Rod's death. Because he is killed. Because after the little thing where they go on the... You know, she bats him away. While she's sleeping, she sees Krueger in Rod's cell. So after she wakes up, her and Glenn go to see Rod, and he is hung to death. Hung. Not hanged. It sounds wrong. Hung to death with a bed sheet, which wouldn't fucking work. I'm not going to go into intricacies of that, but there's no way a bed sheet would be strong enough. Because, like, you would try to tie those things. Not only would it not hold around your neck, but it wouldn't hold up a bar. Also, he's freakishly tall, and it's not that high of a ceiling. I guess you could pull back enough, but I don't know. Yeah, he's dead, okay. So Glenn is killed in spectacular fashion. He's sucked into his bed with his TV, and then, which was one of those 360 rooms. It was actually upside down, but it was filmed to look like, you know, it was right side up. So, it's pretty freaking cool. Yeah. And, yeah, even after this, the police and his parents think, like she has been trying to say this, that it's Fred Krueger, and the dad's just like, you're crazy. Yeah, crazy, you're crazy. It's just like, thank you. I have my windows open. I want a little fresh air today. Okay? So, like, she tries to say that Rod didn't do it. And when Rod dies, she's still like, the killer's still out there. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then, like, so Glenn explodes all over his room. And not anyone thinks that's a little bit suspicious. Right? Even when she comes over and says, Daddy, she calls. And she's like, Daddy, I know who's responsible. It's Fred Krueger. I'm going to bring him out. And I want you there to stop him. And he's just like, will you watch my daughter's house for me, please? Just like, he's not taking it seriously, despite the fact that Glenn just went all over the place. How does that happen? Right? It's also one of the case that Freddy was making it look like a murder, and look like a suicide. Here, he's like, fuck it. Explosion. How are you going to justify that as something? Right? Right. Okay. But, yeah, so she goes into the dream and she fights him. She has set up all this Home Alone shit. And then she pulls him out. They have a fight, and then her alarm goes off. Looks like it didn't work. She thinks she's going crazy, and then, well, she brought. Okay, first of all, they're outside on the credenza thing, and she falls. She wakes up with. She has Kruger, and she wakes up, and he's not there, but the credenza is there. She's like, maybe I'm losing my mind. Yeah, okay. How did the credenza get there? There's bars on the windows, and everything's locked. You can't get out. How did the credenza get there? Okay, and then Freddy pops up, and they have a chase around the house. The Home Alone things go off. He's set on freaking fire, and then kills the mom in bed, and then her skeleton goes into the bed, and then it disappears, and it's just a bed. We're supposed to be in the real world here. By this point, Lieutenant Thompson has arrived back to the house, smashed into the window to help. And then she tells him, Daddy, I'm going to finish this off. And so he leaves for some reason, and then we get the ending. So she basically tells Freddy, fuck off, I don't believe in you. And you're taking nothing from me anymore. I'm taking it all back. I'm not giving you any more fear. I don't believe you. You're shit. And he just disappears into nothing. So with that logic alone, Glenn should have been safe as shit, because he repeatedly said he did not believe anything that she said. He denied everything. He was the most unbelieving motherfucker when it came to Freddy Krueger, and he died. And the only reason he died was body count, but also to get to Nancy. But if the whole thing way to defeat him was to say, I don't believe in you anymore, bye-bye, then, nah. And you could say, well, it doesn't work because Freddy comes back. Yeah, but that wasn't part of the rewrites, though. Because that was canon when Wes Craven's ending, where she wakes up, everything is supposed to have been a dream. Which, by the way, if this has been the ending, I'd still have an issue with it because it's still inconclusive as hell. And it seems too wrapped up in a tight little bow. She's like, baby, I'm going to quit drinking. After being a drunk the entire night. And she's like, and it's all very dreamlike anyway. And then she gets in her friend's car and they drive off. One is the friend's car, the other one is the bus. The bus wouldn't have made sense, but, But in this one, she gets in Glenn's car. They get ready to drive off, and the top of the convertible pops up, and it's a red and green like Freddy's sweater, and it drives them away, and then the mom a blow-up doll of the mom gets pulled through the window. And I'm calling out What Culture Horror. Screw you, the remake version of this is not fucking better. Okay? They had a video where it's like 10 things done better in the remake. And they had the gall, the Kajanis, to say that Marge's death in the remake was better than this. And their argument was, it looks like a stupid sex doll being pulled through a window, which it was. But it's better than any shitty-ass CGI could ever do. I'm sorry. No, the remake version of that is terrible. Terrible. That is terrible. But, yeah, and I can sit here and bitch about, Bob Shaye. And Bob Shaye's big reason why there's always a cliffhanger at the end of each of these. If you really think about it, even though they find a way to conclusively kill him in every one except for this one, there's always a cliffhanger. The second one, they defeat him with the power of straight love. We'll get to it. No, he's still there. He pops through the best friend's chest, and then they're gonna die again. Second one, they defeat him with their powers. The house light turns on. He could still be there. Fourth one, they defeat him with the power of Dream Master. But You see him in the fountain. And I think that's that one. And then in the fifth one, they defeat him with help from his mother, and then and then you see the skipping girls. The only one that really is conclusive, that really are conclusive, are Freddy's Dead and New Nightmare, because they were supposed to be conclusive. Freddy's Dead was the last one, and it is. Chronologically, it is the final in that chronology, and we'll get to it. But you're like, oh, well, it wasn't the last one. But it was. Because Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a different continuity. So is Freddy vs. Jason. If you really think about it, Freddy vs. Jason is a continuity where it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Freddy vs. Jason. Because due to the time jump in Freddy's Dead, 10 years from 1991 would be 2001. And there's no kids. Are you telling me that in 3 years the place will be repopulated again? No, it has to be in a different timeline. Sorry. But anyway, Bob Shaye decided that he wanted the cliffhanger ending to set up a sequel because this would be good. And so then he did that with every single one except for Freddy's Dead, because that was supposed to be the last one. Technically it was. And like I said, you could tell he wanted to keep doing that. But people are always shitting on Bob Shaye for putting the cliffhanger, but I never hear any kind of complaint over how bad Wes Craven's version of the ending actually is anyway. First of all, she defeats him with saying, "I don't believe you anymore, go away, bye-bye." And he just... And then we're supposed to believe that the ending is not a dream. Like, I've seen the version without Bob Shaye's ending attached to it, and it still feels like a dream because they just drive off. Both versions, the bus or the car, it doesn't matter. It still feels like a dream, and it makes no sense. So I don't know. I get what he was trying to go for, but on paper, but in execution, I don't think it worked as well as he thought it would. Because it also adds confusion to later when Nancy shows up. Now, if Bob Shaye didn't interfere, probably would make more sense, but she shows up and we saw that she was taken away. Well, what happened? Right? And then they're like, oh, my mom died in her sleep. So, did she actually die when Freddy killed her in a fire, or pulled her through the thing, or... I don't know. But as it stands, Nightmare on Elm Street can go to the moon. It's one of those, it's to the moon. It's good. It's not my favorite. This is one of the franchises, much like Phantasm and Friday the 13th, where I don't think the first one is the best, but this is more solid than either of those two. I'll put this higher than those other two. Phantasm is not bad. Friday the 13th is not good. But so what are your thoughts on A Nightmare on Elm Street? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.